So for the mini lesson talking about experimental design, I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to talk a little bit more about constants and the control group versus your experimental group and your repeated trials. Your constants are the things that stay the same. You pick one of those constants and make it your independent variable. You pick one of the things that affects your object and decide, I'm going to change that thing on purpose. And that's going to be your independent variable. And then you decide, what effect is this change that I'm making going to have? That's your dependent variable, whatever it is you're going to measure or count or look for. Your control group is the group that gets no treatment. So, for example, if I wanted to test fancy fertilizer, I would have a group of plants that got no fertilizer, and then I would have a group of plants that got fertilizer. My group with no fertilizer is my control group because they're not getting the treatment, and the group that's getting the fertilizer is my test group because they are getting the treatment. So then what things would need to stay constant? Well, if the only thing that's changing, the IV, is fertilizer or gnaw, then that means everything else involved in plants needs to be the same. The type of seed, the type of dirt, the amount of water, the amount of sunlight it gets, blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff needs to stay the same. So I wanted to look at these three and identify these parts and hope that maybe after this, you would be ready to take the quizzes to test your knowledge. So for the first scenario, it says, Mr. Smith wanted to see if the color of light shined on a plant had an effect on the number of leaves it had. He gathered two groups. Oh, there's an error there. He gathered two groups of the same species of plants, gave them the same amount of water, and did the test for the same amount of time. One group of plants, he used white light. On the second group, he changed the light color to red. So your IV is going to be the thing that Mr. Smith is changing. What's the one thing he's doing differently from the one group of plants to the other? That's right, the color of the light. So the independent variable is the color of the light. The dependent variable is what he's going to measure. How is he seeing what effect the light had? And it says in the first sentence, had an effect on the number of leaves. So he's going to count the number of leaves. So the dependent variable is number of leaves. So constants are going to be the things that stay the same. So if the only thing we're changing is the color of the light, everything else needs to stay the same. We could go on for days, but at the very least, we need the same plant, same amount, type of water, same amount, type of soil, same container, same environment, like it can't be hot or cold. It can't be hot for one and cold for the other one. All right, we could keep going, but we're going to stop there. All right, what is the control group? So remember, the control is the one that doesn't get the treatment. So the control group in this case would be the white light, because white light is what we normally see. That's the more normal, the more average, the more no treatment. It's rare that we see red light. The experimental group is the test group. It's the group that is being tested. So that would be the red light group. All right, moving on to number 2. You are managing a large feed lot of cattle. A pharmaceutical company wants you to try a new antibiotic to treat shipping fever in a newly arrived cattle. You are currently not using any antibiotic to treat shipping fever in your cattle. The company claims that it's more effective and will save you money using this antibiotic. You will use the same feed, water conditions of the cattle. You will measure the temperature of the cattle's fevers to see whether or not the new antibiotic works on treating shipping fever. All right, so the independent variable is the thing that you are changing, and in this case, it's whether or not you're using the new antibiotic. So the independent variable is the new antibiotic. Dependent variable is what is being measured. So it's the temperature of the cattle's fevers. So I guess the dependent variable is just going to be temperature, and we're going to put cattle shipping fever. That's what they're measuring here. All right, the only thing we're changing is some of the cows are getting this medicine and some aren't, everything else needs to stay the same. So they said in the thing that the feed and water conditions are staying the same, but just environment period needs to be the same. There shouldn't be anything different between the two sets of cows. And they really should have the same like general parents or, same breed of cow, all that jazz. All right, the control group is the group that doesn't get the treatment. So which is going to be the control group here? Exactly. It's going to be the group that has no antibiotic. And then the experimental group would be the group that gets antibiotic. All right, last one. Number 3, a shopping mall wanted to determine whether the more expensive Tough Stuff floor wax was better than the cheaper Steel Seal floor wax at protecting its floor tiles against scratches. 1 liter each brand of floor wax was applied to the test sections of the main hall of the mall. The test sections were all the same size and were covered with the same kind of towels. After 3 weeks, the number of scratches in each of the test sections was counted to observe the wax's effectiveness. So the IV is the thing that's being changed. So what is being changed here? That's right, the type of wax. Dependent variable is what's being measured, what's being counted. Right, the number of scratches. What's going to stay constant here? If the type of wax is the only thing we're changing, what needs to stay the same? Well, we've got the size of the section, type of tiles, and then we've also got, it's all in the main hall. It's all in the main hall of the mall. Control group, all right? So the control group is going to be, we got Tough Stuff and Steel Seal. And Steel Seal is the cheaper stuff. So we're going to assume that means that the Steel Seal is what they've been using. So the control group is the Steel Seal. Now, technically, they should have had a control group that had no wax put on it. That would be your best control. But there's not a mall in the world that wants to try that because then your floor gets damaged and you can't ever return from it. All right, and then the experimental group is the more expensive, Tough Stuff. All right, so hopefully that helps you a little bit in moving ahead and taking the quizzes and then doing the final assignment for today. Thanks. See you later.